So we had enough. Next year, we will have enough, and we're going to be right back in the same situation, and we're going to get it done.
If I had one game to win right now, I pick Jimmy Butler. Speaking of Warriors, I just pick Jimmy Butler. I'm saying in terms of just like his.
You talking about lock Jimmy Butler or not? Jimmy Butler with the locks or no? Which one?
I'm talking about whatever he wearing in the playoffs. I'm just saying something about this dude.
What is it about the Miami Heat in the conference finals? I want every part of my being wants to dismiss them. I want to say Celtics in 5. I'm going to say Celtics in 5. It's probably not going to be Celtics in 5. What is it about the Miami Heat that I'm missing that we all miss?
Draymond Green said it best. There's 82-game players and there's 16-game players. It takes 16 wins to win a championship, and those guys are on the Miami Heat's roster. You say Boston Celtics in 5. I cannot bet against playoff Jimmy. This dude is unbelievable what he does to step up his game and raise the tide of everybody else around him. I'm sticking with the Miami Heat beating the Boston Celtics here in this upcoming conference finals. He called it last year. When they got bounced in the conference finals, he said, we will be back and we will win next time. And beyond all reasonable doubt, he did it. Jimmy Butler back on the stage. I am not betting against that dude to lose in this series.
The Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler aren't just beating the Boston Celtics, they're beating the dog shit out of the Boston Celtics. So slight addendum there.
Tell us how you really
Big
feel.
Mike, yeah, I wonder how much are you keeping up with your politics, your pop culture, your entertainment news, just non-sports, or even other sports, on the PGA Championship. Just how much you keeping up with things beyond NBA off-season workouts. You know, you're well versed across the board these days.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
I would like to think so. You are, because you're a versatile guy. I can't put you in a box. You're not a one-trick pony.
Can't put me in a box. Right.
The reason I ask that is I'm sure you know that in NBA history, teams are 0 and 149 when trailing 3-0.
Yep.
And if Denver were to sweep tonight and Miami wins tomorrow, there will be 8 days until the NBA Finals on June 1st. So in other words, you got to find a lot of other stuff to talk about on this here show, because there ain't going to be no real basketball going on for a while if we make dubious history this season by having, for the first time, I was today years old when I learned that there had never been 2 conference final sweeps in the same season. There have been 16 sweeps in conference finals history, but never twice in the same season. And that seems like where we're probably headed, given the vice grip that Miami has on the Celtics in Eastern Conference Finals, and given how flummoxed Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Big and Lil Joker have the Los Angeles Lakers. But let's start here, because obviously you're in Boston, that's your backyard.
I'm in Miami today. I'm in a Miami state of mind. That's why I'm wearing white. Hey,
the only thing you didn't have in your feed was Bad Boys. Only thing that was not representing your feed was Will and Martin.
That's right. Everything else. Miami.
Welcome to Miami.
And Michael, this is, I think both conference final results so far, 3-0, are surprising. I think Miami is the most surprising because some people, and Denver was the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Miami was the opposite. Miami
Only
was
the
8.
number 1 seed, yeah.
Yeah, number 1 seed, and they're dominating. They've been the best team in the Western Conference most of the year. Miami has been, an afterthought is too strong, but it really was looked at as a 2-team race between Milwaukee and Boston.
An afterthought is not too strong. These dudes lost to the Hawks in the play-in and were less than 4 minutes to losing to the Bulls.
But it's still Miami.
Listen.
But you can't say.
Well, right.
You can't say
because both you and I toward the end of the regular season, we're talking about, watch out for Miami because their 3-pointers started falling. You always got to factor in Miami in these playoffs, or in the playoffs with Jimmy Butler and Heat culture and Eric Spoelstra. You can never discount Miami. But Miami was on the verge of being on vacation, either in Miami, maybe they stay, or Cancun or somewhere else, coming from the play-in. But for them to go from the play-in and the second game of the play-in to being 11-3, Like, nobody could have seen this coming, the way they handled
and
business
dominating.
against the Bucks. Yes, the Bucks, the Knicks,
Dominating
and now the
both of
Celtics.
those teams.
Right.
The top two teams
so I guess
so far got a game. Just got one game.
The question I was going to ask you is an oldie but goodie for us. Just basic, more about. Is the Eastern Conference Finals more about the Heat and Heat culture and that guy, Jimmy Butler, or the Boston Celtics? Because honestly, bruh, I can't call it. I can make a case for both of them. Go for it.
I can. I think it's more. I think it's more about Miami. And I say this now as a parent, and I probably wasn't thinking. I know I wasn't thinking this way, 15, 20 years ago, before I had kids. But now I look at Miami, and I look at what they're doing, and I see the importance of not only talent, because they do have talent.
Lots of it. Did you see what Jaylen Brown said? Did you see what Jaylen Brown said? Let me interject this quote in case, because thank you for going there. This is a quote I read from Jaylen Brown. They're playing well above their means. They're balling right now, and I got to give them respect. Guys that we should be able to keep under control are playing their ass off. That's the most backhanded respect I ever heard. Why? Because a lot of them are undrafted? That's backhanded if you ask me.
They have talent, and it starts with Jimmy Butler. But beyond the talent of Stevens and Strus and Adebayo, who's an all-star player, it's not like he was drafted and he's an all-star player and he was crushing Jaylen Brown and others last night. It's discipline and details. How many times have you said that? I know you have, to your kids. That you can have all the talent in the world and you can have all the intelligence in the world, but if you don't pay attention to the margins and you don't finish the job, if you don't pay attention to the details, if you're not careful, something that could potentially be great will wind up being sloppy and substandard and haphazard. And that's the story of the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are disciplined. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They know who they are. They know what their identity is. And they're putting their impact all over the Boston Celtics. And the Celtics don't know what to do with it. Well, likewise, the Celtics are sloppy, undisciplined, and are in an identity crisis.
Well, and that's why I like the more about, because the answer is both, right? I mean, this is when I say I can't call it, it's not because I don't recognize the brilliance and the discipline and the detail and the dedication of Miami Heat and Heat culture. But when you juxtapose it with a team whose heart pumps Kool-Aid, the Boston Celtics collective heart pumps Kool-Aid. Reggie Miller was saying during the game last night, they're taking the Celtics' heart. What heart exactly? Because they look like a bunch of scarecrows to me, okay? And I never thought I would say that about a team that just showed tremendous heart and character, but maybe it just had to do with they were playing the fraudulent Philadelphia 76ers and coming back from 3-2 against the Sixers and what Jayson Tatum and company did in Game 7. But here they are with no answer for a team an organization that has turned what we think we know about basketball on its head. Because thanks to the Miami Heat, the draft, when you're talking about Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson and Caleb Martin.
I don't know why I call him Stevens.
And hell.
Why they call him Stevens? Vincent.
I don't know.
Who's Gabe Stevens?
And hell.
All right.
I feel like I knew you were talking about. And hell, even Jimmy Butler was the 30th pick and is on his 4th freaking team. I mean, the draft doesn't matter. The regular season doesn't matter. Seeding doesn't matter. Hell, leads don't matter when it comes to these Miami Heat. So all hail the Heat. But the Celtics, what the hell is wrong with them? They quit. They checked out. It's so funny, man. When you said my kids, I'm talking about my players. I was literally cussing out my 9th graders this weekend for letting go of the rope. And for the Boston Celtics, who already lost 2 games at home, which is befuddling in and of itself, okay, how bad they are at home, to go on the road and lay down, roll over like that? I mean, that was such a disservice to the storied history of that franchise. I could not believe how you have 2 All-NBA stars leading the way, and we talk about Joe Mazzulla. Look, man, Joe Mazzulla went out that long ago, and I'm not trying to like shade him. Joe Mazzulla was an interim coach not that long ago. He's basically looking like a substitute teacher right now. And we knew that Eric Spoelstra would coach circles around him. This is about those dudes. This is about Tatum, and this is about Brown. And this is about, to a lesser extent, Horford and Marcus Smart. This is about dudes that's like, yo, man, y'all too old for this. Y'all too old for this.
It's two all-NBA players.
Well, it's but I say to a lesser extent because all of them, whether it's Grant Williams getting in Jimmy Butler's face, like all of them need to grow the hell up, all of them. Or you know what? Maybe it just ain't for them. Maybe I will put them in the same category as the 76ers. They are not who we thought they were or could be, and maybe it's just time to break this duo up. You don't think it's time to break this duo up? Because I just don't know that they got it. They just don't seem like they got it.
No. Okay, another thing I don't believe in, and I've said this many times, I don't believe in writing emotional emails or impulsive emails or anything like that. Any way I feel today, and if I'm really fired up about it, I'm going to wait a beat, and then I may come back in a couple of days so it can settle down. I just want to point out, age is not an excuse, but Michael Jordan won an NBA title at 27-28. LeBron James won his NBA title at 27-28. Like,
I'm not saying Mike. I'm not saying Jayson Tatum. Hold on. Let me clarify before you correct me. I'm not before you counter or correct, as the case may be. I'm not saying that Jayson Tatum can never win. I would never. Listen, man. Like, it wasn't that long ago when some people were talking about how undeserving Nikola Jokic was for being a two-time MVP because of what he hadn't done in the postseason. And before him, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And whether it's Michael Jordan or Tragic Johnson or LeBron James, long is the list of players who people have prematurely determined what they'll never be. And I'm not saying that with Jayson Tatum or, for that matter, Jaylen Brown. I'm wondering if they can do it together. That's what I'm wondering. If this combination, okay, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they can do it together because as much as we're celebrating the Miami Heat, we talk a lot about Heat culture and we're praising Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and all this stuff. The last they last won a championship 10 years ago. So if we're judging by championships,
no, I'm not judging by championships. I'm judging about championship character. And the Celtics, as presently constituted, do not display it. Like, you know it when you see it, even if they haven't done it. And I don't see a team that has it up here and in here. I just don't see it.
They haven't displayed it in this series. Well, hold on. No, they haven't displayed it in this series. I do want to point out that they were in the finals last year. They were. The Heat culture. But wait a minute, hold on.
And they got outclassed in the finals last year. You the same person that coming into this series, Michael. You were worried. You were worried, Michael. Hold on. You were worried, Michael, coming into this series that these Celtics would have the nerve to take the Heat lightly. Did you not worry about that?
And they have. And they have. What I'm saying to you is, Heat culture has been around for a long time. I'm not mocking it, but it was there last year. They were there last year. The Miami Heat had a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, as Jimmy Butler alluded to. Or not alluded to. He said, that was a clip from last year. Game 7 at the crib, white party, everybody ready to kick it, and they lost. So to go so far and to say this is what the Celtics team is going to be, it's the how right now. But look, man, I'm a historian. I know, and Magic Johnson putting out his tweet. Magic Johnson put out his tweet. In all my years, I've never seen a Celtics team. Yes, you have, Magic. Yeah. I remember a team with Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale. They got swept. They got swept in Milwaukee. They got their coach. They quit on their coach. The 83 Celtics quit on their coach, which led to Casey Jones getting 2 championships in 84 and 86. So this is not new of a Celtics team
no new things
playing like dogs
or any team
and getting swept. And getting swept.
There's a lot of teams that this is a rite of passage for them.
Magic. Magic. Shut up, Magic. Shut up.
Wait.
But I would say,
hold on. It's still Magic now. My favorite part though is the score.
All right, shut up, Irvin.
My
I
favorite
love
part of the
Magic,
score.
but Urban.
They blew them out 128, 102 in Game 3.
In Game
Appreciate
3.
that. Thank you.
Hey, I love Magic. I can't stand Urban's tweets though. I love Magic though.
I got you.
So I will say this.
No, you're
I'll say
100.
this.
You're spot on. You are spot on.
But this is why I'm going back to.
There's a long list of teams that have been embarrassed and looked awful, and it's like, break them up, move on, fire the coach, trade the players, only to come back and their story's not over. I get it, but there's just something about this Celtics. Last night, honestly, Michael, would you at least allow this? You talk about what's surprising. Was last night really all that shocking, given the makeup of this current Celtics team? When you think about it, was it really?
Oh, it's interesting.
That's my issue.
It's so
That's
interesting.
My issue.
It's so interesting that you would say this. I'm telling you, before last night, I swear, I had this thought, like an hour before the game. I said, one thing we haven't seen in this series yet, because it happens in every playoff series, we haven't seen one team just putting it on the other one, like just blowing them out. Like that's going to happen. One of these teams is go blow out the other one, and I thought it might be Miami putting it on Boston, which is exactly what it was. But I'm going to tell you my last thought on why I think it's more about Miami than Boston right now, why Miami is more responsible for what's happening. It's not necessarily collapse, but singular focus.
They're just better.
Jimmy Butler said that last year, and even when they were struggling in the play-in, I think that was on their minds, that they're playing for something. Even when he was missing time and they weren't making their shots and, trailing the Bulls and underdog against Miami, I think it was on their mind what they're playing for. They don't need to be reminded what the stakes are. The problem with the Celtics and the reason they're not going to win this series, one of the reasons they're not going to win this series, is they always got to be reminded who they are or who they should be and what the stakes are. I can't keep telling it. I can't win it more for you than you want it for yourself.
Okay. Oh man, goodness gracious. I said that after we lost yesterday, right? And by we, I mean my ninth grade team.
Oh, I know.
No.
I know.
Wait. Okay, wait a second. So I'm okay. So I'm trying to identify our disconnect. So I think we both observing the same issues. I think maybe the departure where we part company seems to be, you think that this is just part of their journey and a learning experience, if I could characterize it that way, and that they can come back from this. Not only we both know they're not coming back in this series, but I don't know that as presently constituted, they're going to recover from this. And by this, I specifically mean last night and this series. I don't know that they can just run it back and say, you know what, we took our lumps. Is that how you see it? Is that what I'm picking up from you? That this isn't the end of their story?
No, I don't think run it back is the way to go. But I just have a hard time looking at a team getting beat down in the conference finals, being in the conference finals three of the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. So getting beat down in the conference finals this year, won the conference finals last year, lost the conference finals in a bubble to Miami. I have a hard time saying, okay, just because they're getting crushed and they look lost, that it's over. No, it's got. You know what it is? This is not. I can't write that yet. I can't write that. What I know is this is the moment where you go away after you get swept tomorrow night. You go away because you're going back to Boston without a win. Okay, after you get swept tomorrow night. Now this is where everybody looks at themselves and says, okay, who am I really? Who did I show myself to be in this 4-game series against Miami?
Right.
So it's on all them. And then I don't know where it goes from there. Are you honest enough to have that assessment and then poke holes in who you thought you were and understand that your narrative is not quite what you told yourself your narrative is and make adjustments? If they can do that, then the story's not over. If they can't do that, you're absolutely right. If they can't do that, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see whether practically, financially, whatever, Jaylen and Jayson could continue to coexist. We'll see I don't know. I guess as we go to break, because we got to talk about a real legacy and narrative after the break. I guess I'll put it this way. Mike, it's not that they got beat down, it's that they got laid down. Or that they laid down. Damn, I messed that up. Let me say that again. It's not that they got beat down, it's that they laid down. Shout out to State Property. Get down or lay down. No, they laid down. They rolled over. That's what bothers me. We've seen plenty of beat downs in a series and people come back from it. You're right. Teams have gotten swept before. Hall of Famers, all-time great teams got swept before. Like, it happens. It's just, I don't know, man. It just
that's right.
Never really quite. Maybe they've gone as far as they can go. You know, that's all. That's what I'm.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
Magic got swept in '83, but I bet Irvin doesn't remember that.
Jim Brown passed away on Thursday at the age of 87. Michael, not only is this our first opportunity to talk about his passing, but honestly, man, and I was thinking about this, it's one of the things I enjoy about doing this show with you. In over 20 years of our friendship, in countless conversations, dinners, texts, and obviously this show, I don't know that we've ever really done a deep dive on Jim Brown. I don't think we've ever really talked about Jim Brown. And even our Patriots connection, given Bill Belichick's relationship with Jim Brown, I don't know that we've ever actually gone there. And I'm like, man, I got an Akron, Ohio kid to talk about Jim Brown with. So take it away.
Yeah, it's something, man. Growing up in Northeast Ohio as I did, football is very important to that part of the country. So much so when I first started covering, high school football for the Akron Beacon Journal, we used to, for high school writers, we used to have predictions in the paper on who was going to win, and they'd keep score, and they'd keep records. So you'd have your predictions, you'd have your you'd have your picture in there, you have your predictions, you'd have your record. And I tell people this all the time. I know you know it, but maybe a lot of people in the country don't. When they play the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, the first preseason game, that is a high school stadium. It is a high school stadium where they're playing. It seats about 30,000 people.
Yeah.
So it is Massillon, McKinley, where Paul Brown was once the head coach at Massillon and Ohio State. So the roots are deep in Ohio. I can tell you that I did not watch. I was not born when Jim Brown retired. But I was the only kid playing pickup football who would run the ball, and after getting tackled, I'd get up very slowly, intentionally, because I heard all the stories. I heard my uncles and my aunts and my grandparents talking about, Jim Brown. Jim Brown, you know what he used to do? He used to get up slow, and you thought he was hurt, and he'd walk back to the huddle slowly and then go ahead and wreck people and do his thing. So he was incredible. He was a legend in Ohio, the best of the best of the Cleveland Browns, a member of their last championship team. All the things about Jim Brown. Jim Brown on the field. Some of the women in my family saw him socially and talked about how fine he was. And you ain't seen a man until you saw Jim Brown, 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds, on and on.
Yeah.
So a loss athletically, but as Jerry Brewer points out in his column, there is some complication there.
Well, before we get to the complication, because I want to kind of because I feel like he packed a lot in 87 years. He packed a lot in 87 years. I feel like the best way to execute this conversation is to kind of do it in segments. You know what I mean? Because there's many faces and facets of Jim Brown, and I don't want you to get into the complications, and then I go back to football. So I'll just do that real quick if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Nobody ran the football better than Jim Brown. Career 5.22 yards per carry. Only person to average over 100 yards rushing per game. 8 rushing titles in 9 years. 7 1,000-yard seasons. I believe the only non-QB to be a 3-time MVP. It's one of those accepted truths, whether you saw it or not. And I think Barry Sanders, his father, would attest to this. Whether you saw him play or not.
A little too much. little too much given the moment. Sanders
but
is
just
not there.
But you just accepted, right? You just accepted as gospel that Jim Brown was the greatest running back of all time. I was born in 1979. I was introduced to Jim Brown in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where he asked Jack Spade, what makes you think you could be a black hero? I'm an ex-football player. He was like, one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in cinema, okay? So it's like, I was introduced to Jim Brown as the actor, okay? The first actor to have an interracial romance scene with Raquel Welch, okay?
Yeah.
Dude retired at 30 from the Cleveland Browns as an act of defiance and resistance. When Art Modell threatened to fine him for missing training camp when he was recording The Dirty Dozen, he was like, all right, chuck up the deuces. I'm out. I'm done. And never looked back. My first images of Jim Brown was when he had, that his signature trademark hat, founding the American program and brokering peace between the Crips and the Bloods and working with gangs and prisons. And obviously, we all have seen the iconic photo from the Cleveland/Ali Summit with him and Lou Alcindor and Bill Russell, and obviously, Muhammad Ali, and then Cassius Clay. And so, it was Ali, I'm sorry. And so, he's been so ubiquitous and such a pillar and such an institution, not just in black culture, but in popular culture. Like, he was one of them dudes on the wall at your elementary school. Like, when you go to a black school and they got a bunch of great black Americans on the wall, Jim Brown's one of them. And he had a connection to everything and everybody. I remember Richard Pryor, when he was going through his issues, speaking in his stand-up about Jim Brown coming over to the house saying, well, what you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
I mean, he was friends. I mean, I just recently happened to watch One Night in Miami again. He was like this with Sam Cooke and Malcolm X, and of course Muhammad Ali. It's like he was a titan in the truest sense of the word.
And add my favorite story.
Managed Earth, Wind, and Fire.
The Earth, Wind, and Fire. Managed Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Managed Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean,
and Maurice White tells the story how he first met Jim Brown, went to his crib. Jim Brown opens the door, butt naked. I said it on purpose, not naked, butt naked. And Maurice White was like, what is this? What's going down here? So yeah, he was involved in everything. He really was.
We're only talking about him as a football player. Lacrosse only like revolutionized that sport practically, right? Like one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time. I mean,
and track. At Syracuse.
Yes.
4 sports.
Yes. Yeah.
Track and basketball. And he played basketball. And he averaged 13 points.
He was incredible.
Syracuse.
He was incredible. And I mean, just socially, what he did he started the Black Economic Union. And listen, he had some questionable decisions. I mean, whether it was the way he dealt with Donald Trump and how he handled some other social stances or issues, if you will. But, I would go so far as to say Jim Brown might have invented woke, okay? And I know that's used as a pejorative a lot of times nowadays, but I'm talking about in terms of one of the original outspoken black athletes. He might have been the prototype for the black athlete who would not be defined by the sport he played. He was not satisfied getting paid to play football. He always demanded that he be viewed and respected as more than just a football player. And so we can go on and on about his legacy as an athlete, as an actor, as an activist. But now, to your point about that word, the complications.
Before we get to the complications, there's one more thing.
So you make this point, and then you take it to complications. After you make, and then you you just take it from there. Okay.
I want to tag on to the political point, in that and I think a lot of people need to understand that Cleveland Summit is there, and all of these figures, as that picture, just bring that picture up again. It's just a great picture, one of my favorite ones.
Yep.
And once you know the story, of this summit, it's even more impressive because there's Ali there, and Ali is, look, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to Vietnam. I'm not going to fight.
Viet Cong ain't ever called me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were all there together in support, although most of those brothers did not agree with Ali.
Right. Correct.
They did not
Correct.
share his political position. A couple of them there are former Cleveland Browns. They're veterans. They served. They didn't agree with him, but they agreed. They supported his right to
I'm
do
not
what he
even
was
sure
going
if
to do.
Jim. I don't want to misrepresent. I'm not even sure if Jim totally agree with it. Like
I don't think Jim
by the way,
did.
Jimmy. By the way, Jimmy Brown. Old people call him Jimmy Brown. But no, Jim had a problem with John Smith and Tommy Carlos. You know,
he had a problem. He had a problem with Colin Kaepernick.
Tommy Smith and John Carlos. Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, sorry. Tommy
Kaepernick.
Smith and John Carlos. With protests in general, he wasn't a fan of peaceful protests in general. Called them parades. So no, you're right. Thank you for pointing that out, because he didn't have even the neatest ideology when it came to Black America.
No
you know,
question.
but I feel like there was nobody more connected to all things Black America in the 20th century and all people Black America in the 20th century than Jim Brown. Go ahead.
And Michael, I love can I just tell you, I love the way you just said that. He didn't have the neatest ideology. I mean, that is so accurate, because it's hard to just say he was this or that, because today, especially, if I say he's a conservative, you probably think he wasn't down with things that he was down with. If I say he's a liberal,
he supported Richard Nixon, I want to say.
Yeah, you probably think that he's against things that he wasn't against.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really pin him down. And like even his definition of what blackness was didn't always match up. Okay, I told you about Earth, Wind, and Fire, managed them. You know, Richard Pryor, and he had a deal with Warner Brothers, and so he was able to green light some movies and some projects. But he did turn down Prince because he said black people wouldn't listen to him. Okay, so a swing and a miss there. But when you come to his relationship with women, there is just no way to sanitize that. There's no way to talk around
Nor
that.
should you.
I'm not going to say, why are we talking about it now? Because it was a part of his life. It was a part of who he was, and these things, even though he consistently said, oh, that's not true, I'm misunderstood, or people aren't telling the whole story, these incidents followed him in almost every decade that he was in the public eye. There was some incident with Jim Brown, including one time when he served jail time because the court said, we need you to take some counseling.
Right.
And he said no.
Yeah.
And he went to jail. And so these things should be scrutinized. This should be part of his story.
Sure.
Because I think too often, these situations, especially with great athletes like this and seminal figures like this, these incidents are kind of put to the side or even glossed over.
Well, I don't know. I think traditionally and historically they have been, but I think more currently, no. I think it's part of our societal evolution that we don't ignore this part of. So see, I don't actually think he's complicated. I don't think it's complicated. It's very simple. If two things can be true were a person, it would be Jim Brown. Like, he was all the things we talked about, and he had violence issues toward women and men at times, allegedly. Yeah, right. Okay, and so
what's alleged?
I guess the way because like from a legal standpoint, I'm just being a journalist here. Like for once, from a legal standpoint, there were things that we was accused of, but we was not proved or convicted of in some instances. Okay. Yes, we know the story about shattering, I don't know if his girlfriend or his wife, her car with a shovel, or throwing his girlfriend off the second-story balcony. Everybody's heard the stories, but from a legal standpoint, there are a lot of things that he was not convicted in a court of law for. So I'm just being accurate. But I'm in no way absolving him of these accusations. That's strictly me being accurate. But the New York Times, in their obit, had it in the first paragraph. They didn't bury that. It was in the first paragraph, in a description of Jim Brown and his life was his violent relationship with women. The way I want to put it, Michael, is this. He was awesome and in many ways awful. He was prolific and problematic. He was a legend, but maybe not the ideal definition of a hero. He was an icon but probably not an idol. And he was an example, but not a role model. Like there were certain things about him as a person that are nasty and that are ugly. Rest in peace. But like it was true about some of the things that he did and was accused of. And there were other things about him that should be celebrated forever. What he did for the black community, what he tried to do for the black community, what he did for black athletes, what he did for the game, what he did for popular culture. And again, I think even in death, because listen, man, like we could have had this conversation a week ago when he was 87 years old. I think even in death, yes, you mourn him, your heart goes out, condolences to his family and his loved ones, but this is who he was, and I don't know that Jim Brown never ran from contact. Jim Brown never wavered, never gave an inch. I don't know that Jim Brown would not want us to recognize the totality of Jim Brown, given that Jim Brown never wanted to be put into one box.
Yeah, I don't like that headline from Trotter though. Was Jim Brown a great man? No. No, he was not. Look, if you're saying if he had ambition,
he did great things.
He did great, right? Yes, there we go. There's a distinction. If your ambition is to do great things, particularly for black communities across this nation and across this world, that's admirable. That's great. But part of black communities are black women.
Yeah.
So
100%. Say it again.
How do I?
Say it again.
Right. Part of black communities are black women. So don't tell me, oh yes, you're a civil rights activist. You wanted the best for black people, but you don't always treat women of all races with respect. I'm sorry, I can't compartmentalize that. I can't ignore it. I won't ignore it.
That's the key word.
So no, he was not a great man. No.
Because if you ignore it, you do absolve it. You do. It's like, and even celebrating the great things he did. Like, and I don't know the right answer here. Do we? Man, I feel like Brother Bane and Malcolm X. Solomon had 700 wives. A man's great deeds far outweigh. Like, I mean, it's like, what do you do with all the good that he did, given, that's why I said he was awesome and at times awful. It's like, what do you do with some of the great things he did? Do you cancel those out? Do you forget them? Do you not acknowledge them? I think both things can be true. He can be celebrated and properly scrutinized and vilified if necessary. Some might say, well, there's a time and a place for that, and now is not the time. We're remembering Jim Brown. So I don't know that you can remember Jim Brown and not remember Jim Brown in his totality. We got company coming, so I want to say this last thing before we go, taking it back to the field. Jim Brown is why we've had a lot of knockdown, drag down arguments about this, about Brady being the greatest player ever. And I'm sorry. I told you, and I ain't just saying this because the man just passed away. I cannot put in good conscience say that Tom Brady did his job better than Jim Brown did his. By the way, shout out to Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay's top 5 list, I know he left off Peyton Manning, was fire. He had Jim Brown, he had Tom Brady, he had John Elway, he had Deacon Jones, he had Reggie White. That's a damn good list if you ask me. That's an unemotional, unbiased list if you ask me. Jim Brown is on the Mount Rushmore of black athletes.
Elway
and
3, I don't know
players.
about that. Elway and 3, I'm not sure Elway should be in there. Elway should be in the top 5. But I'll tell you, Jim Brown, I understand your point about Jim Brown and being a football player and all that. Never missed a game in his career.
Never
missed a game. And another great stat about Jim Brown, the football player, he scored more touchdowns than he had games played. If you throw in his 106 rushing touchdowns and his 20 receiving touchdowns, that's 126 versus 120 games played. That tells you a lot about the man on the field. He was unstoppable.
The dude could have crushed it now. If he played now, he would be the baddest running back in the league. Like, I can't tell you how many hours I spent with my uncle and my grandfather watching black and white NFL films of Jim Brown running over, through, and around everybody. It's unbelievable.
don't even know where to start. It's obvious letdown. I feel like we let our fan base, organization down. We let ourselves down, and it was collective. They playing well above their means. They balling right now, and I gotta give them respect. Gabe Vincent, Martin, Strus, Duncan Robinson. You know, guys that we should be able to keep under control are playing their ass off.
These two dudes podcast their ass off. Dragonfly Jones, LaJethro, Jenkins, Tyler and John. Good to see y'all, man. It's been too long. That's a fail on our part, but it is great to have you guys back. Michael and I were talking about this earlier. Tyler, you can go first. Just simply put, is this 3-0 Heat lead, is this more about Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, Heat culture, or the Celtics just, like I said earlier, they collective hearts pumping Kool-Aid?
I guess, I'm not a Finch straddler, but I think it's a bit of both. I think this is for sure like a heck of a chapter in Heat culture lore here because, everyone's talking about, oh, well, this is the same core that, took Boston 7 last year, but this was not the same team. The 22-23 Heat were not the 21-22 Heat. They stumbled, late in the season. I don't think any of us saw that they had this run in them that they have here now, but
with no
it's
Tyler
for sure.
Hero.
Right. With no Tyler Hero, but he might be back for the finals. So, that's another wrinkle to add there. But yeah, nobody, I don't think, I've had diehard Heat fans hit me up on Twitter saying, bro, we didn't even see this coming. Like, it is a testament to Heat culture. I think it is a failure on the Celtics part as well, because the thing about playoff basketball, right, you got to pick your poison. And if you can, depending on the team's role players to beat you, that is a great bet to make most of the time. But that conventional wisdom goes out the window with the Heat. Right, because the Heat culture, Heat basketball is we're going to roll out 5 guys, and all of these guys can torch you if they get hot. So you have to scheme for that, and you have to, be prepared for that. And the Celtics have not done that.
I think one team is a professional basketball team, and the other isn't. You know what I mean? The Heat come and play 4 quarters every game, regardless of if they have a chance to win or not. You know what I mean? They'll give you everything they got, and just you don't get that from the Celtics. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get 4 quarters from the Celtics. And then, Spo finds a way to muck it up no matter what team he's playing and how good the other team is. And he finds a way to make it easy in the offensive end. And so, we can't say that, Joe Mazzulla has done that. So I think one team is professional. They come in, they clock in. Every game, they're going to give it everything they got. And the other one isn't. You know what I mean? And when you can find a way to make it easy on the offensive end for you and harder on the defensive end for the other team, regardless of how big the talent disparity is, you have a good chance of winning. And then you got a dog like Jimmy Butler that just grabs the reins of games at the end, and they really haven't even needed that for the most part. I mean, last game, they didn't even need Butler had 16 points? They got cooked by, Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, you know what I mean? So fortunate to watch. As a St. Louis, as a fan of Jayson Tatum.
Yeah. No, I like how y'all put that. So, going to the Western Conference, do the Lakers find a way to get a game tonight, John?
I mean, I don't care. I hope not. Don't waste my time, man. Let's get to the finals, dog. You feel me? Let Bron rest. They got
8 days before the finals, though.
Hey, brother, don't waste my energy. You know what I'm saying? They don't have a chance, G. The other team is just better. The Nuggets are just better. You know what I mean? They're just better, and that's it. So, I mean, it'd be cool if they got a win, I suppose, but I'd rather Bron rest. He's looking kind of old in this series in particular. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that foot's definitely bothered him. I think he's more hurt than old, honestly. So, man, hey, if they do, they don't. It doesn't matter. The series is over, baby. You know what I mean? I'm not going to waste my energy.
But Tyler, the reason I asked it just that way, just the reason I went down to do they get a game is, and maybe I'm overstating this. Y'all in these Twitter streets a lot more than me. I'm trying to prepare myself for the silliness that could ensue if 38-year-old LeBron James is swept by the Nuggets as a 7th seed. I don't know. I'm like, oh Lord, please don't let this dude get swept.
Hey, look, the haters are gonna find a way to clown regardless. 4-game sweep, gentleman sweep, whatever, what have you. I mean, I'm kind of with John. I think they probably do win tonight, but that, like, them stretching the series doesn't, benefit the Lakers at all, because then you just got, you're probably going to get blown out the building when you go to Denver and, have to play in that altitude. So, nah.
Is there anything that you all have seen in this series that makes you say, okay, Jokic, if he had won that third straight MVP, maybe I thought I was going to have a problem with it, but after watching him up close in this series, I wouldn't have a problem at all. Anything from Jokic, Tyler, you go, then John, you take it. Anything from Jokic to make you reconsider your MVP thoughts?
I was very high on Jokic. I thought he was, a top 5 guy in the world before this postseason. Now I'm at the point, if you say he's the best player in the world, you won't get an argument out of me. I tweeted out the other night, I said that, this postseason, has kind of, cemented that Jokic has to be in that best player of, in the world argument, for so long, for almost like 10 years. That discussion has been Bron, Steph, KD, but we're in the Giannis Jokic era now for the crown, right? Like, and of course you got pushback on that. People don't like change, but these dudes have won 4 of the last 5 MVPs, and they're about to be in 2 of the last 3 finals. We are in the Giannis and Jokic era right now, for sure.
I think Embiid did enough to win the MVP. He's not the best player in the world. I think it's between Giannis and Jokic. You know what I'm saying? So what I've seen is brought him up higher on the best player in the world. I don't think the MVP mattered to him anyway. You know what I mean? That was something we was talking about. He's 1 or 2 of them, baby. He got, you know what I mean? That third didn't mean much. He wants a chip. And it looks like they're going to get it this year for sure. He's playing like it.
It's not about what I'm seeing. I just like what I'm not hearing anymore. And I'm so glad. Sometimes, man, it's like, they say the best deals are the ones you don't make. Sometimes the best takes are the ones you don't have. I'm so glad I ain't buying into that bullshit about Nikola Jokic not being a worthy 2-time MVP because he had never done nothing in the playoffs. And the last game showed you, all right, for as valuable as he is, and for that matter, like he's the big joker, Jamal Murray is a little joker now. Like, for as valuable as he is, John, like, they did their most important work, maybe not their best work, their most important work when he was in foul trouble and on the bench, which goes to show you that they all need a team. So just like he was doing more with less in order to justify being the most valuable player, imagine he's going deep into the playoffs against the best teams because now he has a squad.
Oh, he has a crazy. I mean, the squad is crazy. KCP in the closeout game against the Suns had like 18 in the closing game in that first half. You know what I mean? Like Murray, what he's done in like 30 in the first half, 23 in the fourth quarter to get in a big comeback win. I mean, they got a squad. You know what I'm saying? And he definitely needed that. He needed a healthy team, in order to win in the way they are. But yeah, man. I mean, like I said, they're the better team, and whether Jokic is at his best or not, he has the squad to step up when needed for sure. MPJ is 23 a night. You know what I mean? And he's not had he's not been going crazy. And they're just a great squad all the way around, bro. On both ends of the court, like great team defense and great team offense, and you never see that team take bad shots. When the last time you looked at it, even with a team with MPJ on it? And you don't see bad shots. That's a well-coached squad. Mike Malone's doing his thing. We got to give him his flowers as well.
Yeah. Tyler, you want to jump in on that, or you?
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with John because the main concern I had with these Nuggets, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have never been more wrong about 2-1 seeds in one postseason than I was about the Bucks and the Nuggets. Right? I thought the Bucks were gonna win it all. Right. On the inverse side of things, I thought the Bucks were going to win it all, and I thought the Nuggets were probably going to, get back, weren't going to make it out the West, maybe second round or conference finals exit. And I was wrong because my main concerns about the Nuggets were, I don't know how you can play Jokic and MPJ, have them share so many minutes without having, a strong defensive presence out there. And Aaron Gordon has just been ridiculous on the defensive end this postseason. And like John said, they play great team defense as well. So the concerns that I had about them, they just obliterated them because my concerns were never Jokic isn't that guy because he for sure is. Yeah. Hey, man, Murray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, speaking of that dude, before we get y'all out of here, Mike, I want you on this too, brother. Former Nugget officially called it a career today with one of the dopest retirement announcements I've ever seen, which is really a love letter to his son. Carmelo Anthony announced his retirement today. Tyler, John, Michael. It's funny how guys, like, when they're in their careers, we decide what their legacies are or aren't and who they are and aren't. But as Carmelo got older and even post-career, it just seems like there was more respect for what he did as opposed to talk about what he didn't do. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, winner. He was a winner. Maybe he doesn't have a championship, but he was a winner, whether it's international basketball, college basketball, or in the game of life. He was a winner. Tyler, John, and Michael, like, how will you remember Carmelo Anthony?
He's going to, of course, be forever linked to that 2003 draft with, Bron and Wade and Bosh. What I'm going to remember most about him is just one of the best offensive players I've ever seen. Just a savant, could do it all out there. Can face you up, take you off the dribble, can get to the basket, can work the midi, can work the deep ball, can back you down with the bully ball. Just a complete offensive player. And Melo, he was just cool. Right? Like being cool counts for a whole lot for me. You know what I mean? As in regards to the players that I latch on. And Melo was just a cool guy, and his game was fun, and it was beautiful. Like, that's what I'm going to miss the most about him.
One of the best offensive players I've ever seen in my life, man. You know what I'm saying? I remember them series against the Lakers. Him and Kobe going back and forth. You know what I mean? He gave Kobe problems, First team defensive type player, gave him problems, you know what I mean? So I remember him as just a great scorer, had a beautiful game, you know what I mean? And as a Nugget, honestly, I know like maybe Knicks fans might not like that. But when I think about him, I think about them Nuggets years for sure. But, beautiful way to lead for sure, showing love to a son like that. A lot of respect as a parent for sure.
Yeah, what you said there too, exactly what he said about his son at the end, man. That as a father, that gets me choked up every time. And he was strong too. He was a big, like you guys said, he was a great scorer. He was, but he was bigger than if you saw him up close. I'm like, oh, he's bigger than you think he is. Got it done. And by the way, I just want to say, on a comical note, I was there that night at Madison Square Garden when KG said that stuff to him, and they went to the bus.
Oh boy!
And he was waiting outside the bus. He was waiting outside the bus, and KG was on the bus. Okay, I'll just say it that way. KG stayed on the bus.
He played with finesse, but like you said, he was a big, strong man, and KG knew what time it was. You know what I'm saying?
Melo also never got the credit he deserved. He was on the front lines and at the forefront of the athlete social justice movement, man. He was a voice before it was popular, man. I'm telling you. He was one of those dudes that was holding it down and keeping it real. Appreciate y'all, man. The volume, Jenkins and Jones, thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.